I put it on.
Okay. Difficult section here, and I'll share with you some thoughts. We have to decide what we're going to do and how we're going to proceed. Okay. Vayetze Yaakov mi Be'er Sheva vayelech Haran. So Yaakov left Be'er Sheva and he went to Haran. Why did he leave? Why did he leave? One answer is because his brother was looking to hurt him. Esav was furious. We talked about last week that after Yaakov took the brachot from his father that Esav felt he was deserving, he wanted Yaakov dead. He wanted to kill Yaakov. So Vayetze Yaakov, Yaakov left. Some people say Vayivrach Yaakov, he fled. So on one hand, he left because he had to get out. But he also went to Haran. Why did he go to Haran? Because his parents sent him there to find a wife. He was going to look out for his uncle, for Lavan. So, in some respects, he had to leave where he was at, and in other respects, he had to get to where he was going. So, the Meforshim, they go through this in great length as to what happened and why. Now, on his way to Haran, what happened? He took a detour, right? He took a detour. He left Haran, he left Beersheba, and instead of going directly to Haran, it says that he went to Beis Medrash Shem Ve'aver. So the question is, the Torah doesn't say that. How come the Torah does not say that Yaakov left Beersheba and he went to the yeshiva? It doesn't say that.
Yeah.
It leaves it off. So Rav Moshe Feinstein says, and he knows from Pirkei Avos, that it says if you learn a lot of Torah, don't take credit for yourself. So it doesn't show it because it doesn't want Yaakov to say, look at me, I went to yeshiva. I understand that. But there is a Gemara. The Gemara has a discussion. The Gemara says when a person is old enough to get married, what should he do? Should he get married first, then learn Torah, or should he learn Torah and then get married?
Married and then learn.
So that's the Gemara's question. The Gemara says as follows. If you have parnasa, so you can afford a wife and children, get married and learn Torah. But if you don't have a job, you're best off to learn Torah first and then get married. Because if you get married too early, you have the obligations, you won't be able to focus. So when Yaakov left his father's house, he had money with him.
Yeah, but then...
So where was he going? He was going to go get married. What happened? Eliphaz caught up with him. And Eliphaz said to him, my father wants me to kill you. So he says, I can't, can't not listen to my father. So therefore, since his father wanted him dead, Yaakov came up with a solution. Take all my money, and the poor person is like he's dead. So all of a sudden, Yaakov was poor. If Yaakov is poor, where is he supposed to go?
Yeah.
He's supposed to learn Torah. So the truth is, Vayetze Yaakov mi Beersheba, when he left, he was going to Haran. And he wanted to go to find a wife because that's what the Torah says. But he had no choice. He had to make a detour. And he made two detours. The first detour was to the Beis Medrash Shem Ve'aver, where he spent 14 years learning about Torah and Chutz La'aretz. And the second detour is he went to the Beis Hamikdash area, the Mokom Hamikdash. And he went to sleep right by the Mizbeach that Adam HaRishon made and Noach made, and where the Akedas Yitzchak took place. And the rock that he was rested on, or he assisted with, was known as the Even Shesiah, the foundation stone of the world.
Why is it detour?
Why is it what?
Why is detour not on the way? This is second detour.
This is the second. The first detour was to the Beis Medrash Shem Ve'aver.
Why is it detour? It's not. I mean, I never.
Well, the detour means he was
I know,
going to
it's like
Haran, but he went a different way.
Yeah.
We went to wherever Beis Medrash Shem Ve'aver was.
Oh, because you know where is it? That's
Right. So it was called a detour. He went a different road.
yeah.
And then he went by the Beis Hamikdash first. He didn't stop. And then he went back. And the Gemara says that Hashem folded all of Israel underneath him as if Yaakov, wherever he went, he was taking the holiness of Eretz Yisrael with him. It's like Goshen. They say Goshen was a mini Israel. That when the Jewish people lived in Goshen during Paro could do very little to them. Paro could affect them very little. There was nothing Paro could do because Goshen protected them. The only way Paro was able to affect the Jewish people was when they left Goshen and they began to spread and move and assimilate in all of Mitzrayim. That's when Paro had an effect. But otherwise, there was very, very little that they could do. Okay. So now, Yaakov Avinu is in the Beis HaMikdash area, and he decides to go to sleep. He's tired, he decides to go to sleep. Rashi says this is the first time he slept in 14 years. I mean, he probably slept, but he never slept like in a bed. Like the Vilna Gaon didn't sleep much. He would doze off and then he would continue learning. So he slept for a little bit. When he woke up, he had his famous dream, and he realized that he was in a holy place. And all the little stones were now one big stone. So he took oil and he anointed this matzeva, this monument. So everybody asked where he got the oil from. Remember, Eliphaz took everything he owned. So they say that Eliphaz left him his stick, his walking stick. And the walking stick on top had a cap on it that you could screw off. And he had oil in that cap. And that maybe was a miraculous oil because it kept filling up and filling up and filling up. Like the Pach and Katan in the Hanukkah story, he would light that oil, he would learn with it. So they ask, if that's the case, so why did he go to sleep? Why didn't he learn? So the answer that they give is that it was Friday night, and a person is not allowed to learn by candlelight Friday night because they might come to adjust it. They have a whole thing that they know is Friday night because it says that he davened Ma'ariv early and then the sun set, and the only time we daven Ma'ariv early is usually Friday to bring in Shabbos early. So why was he so upset? Because when he realized he was in the Beis HaMikdash, he could have learned. Because these restrictions from the Rabbanan don't apply to the Beis HaMikdash. Shvus doesn't apply to the Beis HaMikdash. So he could have learned and he would not have been restricted. So the truth is that if he wanted to, he could have, if he really wanted to learn in the Beis HaMikdash. So that's why he felt bad, but in the end, that's what he did. Now, it brings down, of course, that when Yaakov met Rachel, so the first time he says, he repeats over, I am the son of Rivka, your father is her brother. Your father's her brother. So Rashi says, why does he keep saying that? He's giving her a message. What's the message? That your father is very dishonest. I just want you to know I can match him. I can be just as dishonest as him. Which, by the way, is not a very good thing to do on a first date. The first time you meet a girl, you shouldn't say to the girl, your father's a crook, but I'm a bigger crook. That's not a way to go out on a date. Yaakov never said he wanted to cheat Lavan. And we really have no record that Yaakov ever cheated Lavan. Just the opposite. Yaakov worked very hard, day and night. He was out on the field, he guarded the sheep. Lavan made accusations against him, but we don't find anywhere, my friend brings up, we don't find anywhere that he cheated Lavan. That wasn't something that happened. They even bring down a Gemara that the Chachamim have a whole debate about a certain trick that roasters could use to cheat people. So they had a whole discussion about it, and he wasn't sure. I think Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai wasn't sure if he should discuss it or not, because those who didn't know about it, he's going to teach them new tricks how to cheat people. And those who knew about it, he didn't want to remind them of what happened. But in the end, the Gemara discusses it, and the Gemara says those who want to trip up and make mistakes and be dishonest, they're going to be dishonest anyway. A person who wants to be a crook is going to be a crook no matter what. So the Chachamim would often talk about different things that could happen that were dishonest. He brings down over here, for example, that Lavan said to him, and Yaakov says, I have no money. So Lavan says, no problem, I'll let you stay for 1 month. Right? It's interesting. that New York state law is that if a person comes to stay by you, and if he's there for 30 days, it's like he's a resident by you. You know, he has legal standing. You can't now throw him out of your house anymore. You know, you can't change the locks on him anymore, even though he was just a guest. After 30 days, there's a legal term that's used that he acquires a certain privilege or right, you know, to live in that room. So it seems very interesting that Lavan had that same concept with Yaakov, that he says, you know, be careful. It's, you know, 30 days. I'll let you stay for me by 30 days, but that it was only 30 days. After 30 days, things changed dramatically and could not happen anymore, and he could not be able to stay there much longer. So I found that to be very, very interesting. Now, I gave a shir Friday night, and when I spoke Friday night, there were a lot of people who had just questions about all these parshios. And they just, you know, everything that happens there's an answer for. But they weren't thrilled with the answer. So we spoke in the shir, and we talked about what's called the Avos made human. And when we talk about Abraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, like we talk about Gedolei Yisrael, we never understand fully who they were, the type of people that they were. They were so great that we don't understand them. But the Torah goes to a very human side. Right. The Torah goes to a very human side of who the Avos were and what they did and what they accomplished. So let's go figure this out from a very, very human side. The human side of the Avos. Okay? So let's go through the human side. It says over here as follows. Avraham Avinu. When we talk about Avraham Avinu travels from Eretz Canaan and he comes to Israel. What's the first thing that greets him in Israel? Famine. There's no food. There's a hunger. What does Avraham Avinu do? He goes down to Mitzrayim. He goes down to Egypt. Okay. He goes down to Egypt, and as he's traveling down to Egypt, he says to his wife, I know that you're a very beautiful woman. Okay? And what's going to happen is, when the Egyptians see you, they're going to want you as a wife for Paro. But there's a problem. You're my wife. How do you solve the problem? Either I have to divorce you, or they'll kill me. So therefore, tell them you're my sister. Okay. Was that the truth?
Yes.
No. They weren't sisters.
Like niece.
It was like a niece. It was a relative. Okay? But he didn't say, tell him you're a relative. He says, tell him you're my sister. So that's a lie. And someone Friday, when I spoke Friday night, said, how could Avraham Avinu lie? You're telling me that this is Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov. I have to understand. He says, how come? Maybe now I'm allowed to lie. So the answer is that we can answer, for Pikuach Nefesh, you're allowed to lie.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's an acceptable answer. The Ramban, he's of the opinion that Avram should never have gone to Egypt in the first place. Mm-hmm. He should have gone someplace else that wasn't so dangerous. Mm-hmm. Why did he go to Egypt? Meforshim explained that he was trying to set a precedent. Just like Avram went down to Egypt and came out with a chush godo with a lot of money, one day Bnei Yisrael will go down to Egypt and they will leave in a similar fashion. So he was trying to, set the tone of going to Egypt and coming out of Egypt for the future generations. Okay. Now, it's very fascinating how Paro treats him. Okay? It says as follows. Vayikra Paro la'Avram. Paro calls Avram in. Vayomer, Mazos asisoli. What did you do? Loma lo igata li ki ishtachi. Why did you tell me she was your wife? Loma marta achosi. Why did you lie to me? And I took her. And look at all the trouble. Get out, he says. Hine ishtacha, kach, take your wife, volech, leave. Get out. And he pays him off, but he throws him out. That was Paro. Paro gets huffy and puffy, and he says to him, get out. What did you do? Why did you do it? Leave. Okay. We have another story where with Avimelech. And the same thing that he says, my sister. Same reason, pikuach nefesh. Okay? Look what happens with Avimelech. Fascinating. It says, Vayikra Avimelech la'Avraham. Avimelech calls Avraham in. Vayomer lo, he says to him, Meo Sisalo, what did you do to us? Not to me, to us.
Yeah.
How did we wrong you that you brought this terrible sin on us? And then he doesn't throw him out. Vayomer Avimelech al Avraham. Avimelech says to Avraham, so what did you see? Ki asisa es hadover hazeh. When you came down, I run a very honest kingdom. I have rules, I have laws. There was no need for you to be afraid. There was no need for you to lie. But something scared you. When you came, you saw something that made you scared and felt you had to lie. Tell me what it was, because I'll fix it. You see, Paro said, what did you do? You're a liar, get out. Avimelech said, no. You're an honest person. For you to have lied means there's something that I'm missing. What is it? And he says to him, Ein yiras Elokim b'mokom hazeh. People do what's right and what's wrong based on what they understand is right and wrong, not because they fear God. I'm more comfortable when you fear God. Now, Avimelech takes what Avram says seriously. And because of that, Avram stays in Plishtim, and he works there, and he has fields there, and he digs wells, and they make peace, the two of them, and they have a relationship. Over and over again, Avimelech and Avram have a bris, a covenant, and Yitzchak also comes to Avimelech. So we see that Avimelech was very different than Paro. Paro blamed Avram and told him, get out. Avimelech said, I don't blame you. I want to grow. Tell me what I am missing. Teach me. I want to learn. When a person says, teach me, I want to learn, you can have a relationship with him. And it seems that Avram and Avimelech were friends. They really were very good friends. Very different. Okay. So, the human side of Avram Avinu, we know that Avram Avinu did acts of chesed. He taught people about Hashem. He saved Lot. He defeated Nimrod and his partners. He had 2 wives, many children. Okay, Avram is a person, even on the human side, that we can relate to and we can grow from. Yitzchak was very different than his father. Avram was a people's person. Yitzchak was not. Yitzchak was very removed, isolated. In the end, he couldn't see very well. He was a very private person. He also went to live in Gur by Avimelech. He also said Rivka was his sister. But this time, Avimelech did not take Rivka. Avimelech said, okay, he says she's the sister. Let's watch them and see what happens. And he watches, and he sees that they act to each other like husband and wife, not like brother and sister. So he calls Yitzchak in, and he says, Yitzchak, you know, what's going on here? I've had this conversation with your father. And Yitzchak still says, I didn't trust you. I still didn't trust you. But he wants to grow. He has a conversation. So Yitzchak stays. Mea Shorim, he harvests, he plants, he redigs all the wells of his father. Very little is known about Yitzchak, but on the human side, Yitzchak conducts himself like a normal human being. So far, so good. What the people in the shir that I was giving had great difficulty with was with Yaakov. Because there were just too many things going on with Yaakov that were wrong on the human side. There's answers for everything. But let's talk about the human side for a moment, and let's see what we can figure out. Okay? Yitzchak calls his son Esav in and says to his son, I'm 123 years old. I want to give you bracha. Please go prepare food the way I like it. Last week we talked about that Yitzchak really liked food. He pretended to like food to build a relationship with Esav. Okay. Yitzchak has tremendous amount of attention to Esav. We understand that. Sometimes in a family there could be 4 or 5 children, right? But one child needs more attention than everybody else. So the father gives attention to that child. The father is not trying to be disrespectful to the other children. You can put it over there. The father is not trying to be disrespectful to the other children, right? The father is just trying to say, listen, Yaakov, you're a big Talmud Chacham, you learn in yeshiva, you don't need my attention, you're able to do it on your own. Esav needs my attention. There's no disrespect in that. A teacher, sometimes in the classroom, the good kid, he never has to worry about. He's always on autopilot. It's the kid that causes all the trouble that the teacher gives all the attention. The good kid could say, no fair, the teacher doesn't even know my name, but he knows the name of the troublemaker. But that would be wrong, right? That's not the correct way of looking at it. So Yitzchak says to Esav, I want you to prepare food for me, and I want you to feed me so I can give you a bracha. Okay, got it. Rivka knows about this, she hears about it. What should Rivka have done? What would you have done in that situation? We know what Rivka's decision was. Rivka was, take Yaakov, dress him up like Esav. I understand that, because Rivka grew up in whose house? Lavan's. So that's Lavan's style. Lavan's style is, oh, I want something, and you're going to give it to somebody else? No problem. I'm going to cheat you. I'm going to trick you. Okay? But I understand that from Lavan. I don't expect that from Rivka. What should Rivka...
Talk to Esav.
Should have talked to who?
Husband.
Husband. Rivka should have gone with Yaakov and gone to Yitzchak and said to Yitzchak, what's going on over here? Oh, I'm going to have a good meal. I'm going to give Esav brachos. Okay. What kind of brachos are you going to give him? Oh, I'm going to give him brachos for this world, for the ruchnius, the holy brachos. That's for Yaakov. Great. Thank you for clarifying. You walk out. If she says, I'm going to give all the brachos to Esav and nothing to Yaakov, Rivka might say, but that's a mistake. That means, why didn't Rivka and Yaakov go in and have a conversation? That's what we do. We talk. We don't cheat people. We don't lie to people. We don't play dress up. It's possible Yitzchak might have said, Yaakov doesn't need the brachos, Hashem will take care of him. Esav needs the brachos. Okay. I may not like that answer. I may not like it. But Yitzchak is the father. And if that's what Yitzchak says, that's what should be. So the group that I was speaking to on Friday night felt that what Yaakov did was wrong. Okay?
Yaakov,
What?
Esav.
What Yaakov did to his father, together with Rivka, was wrong. Okay? Now, if we're talking about the human side, We have something called karma. Karma means what comes around, goes around. What goes around, comes around. Okay? What's going to be? Let's fast forward to the future. Yaakov meets Rachel. Rachel and Leah are twins. They're identical twins. You can't tell them apart. Okay, Leah would have weepy eyes, but that passed over time. Leah, everybody says, was going to marry Esau. Rachel was going to marry Yaakov. That was okay. Yaakov was all right with that. But Lavan was a tricky guy. So what did Yaakov and Rachel do? They had a plan. What was the plan?
Secrets.
Secrets. Signs. See money. Now, comes the day of the wedding. Lavan walks into the room as Rachel is getting dressed. And he says to his daughter, sorry, you're not on tonight. We're putting Leah in place of you. What should Rachel have done? Nothing. She should have kept her mouth shut. Because Yaakov would have said to Leah, and what's the sign? And Leah said, sign? What sign? What are you talking about? Or, Rachel could have gone to Yaakov and said, I got to tell you something. I'm not going to be under the chuppah tonight. Leah's going to be under the chuppah tonight. That's my father's plan. Remember, that was your fear. What happened? Rachel gives the signs. Without asking Yaakov. That's the same type of betrayal that Yaakov did to Esau and to Yitzchak. Last year, Yaakov, you dressed up like Esau. Guess what? Karma. Leah's dressing up
and she told him.
like Rachel.
Or Leah told him. She told him that you also cheated, I also cheated.
That's right. And you want to be like Esau, right? And I'm supposed to marry Esau. So when you cheated and became like Esau, guess what? You got me. So I explained to them that if you follow Yaakov's life, everything he did, nothing he got away with. That means even though we have answers that what Rachel did was so fantastic, and because of that, she's the one to cry for Bnei Yisrael, Rachel Mavaka Baneh, and her chusim were great. All that is true. But at the end of the day, Leah had the children first, Rachel could not have children. And when Rachel comes to Yaakov and says, give me children or I'm going to die, you know what Yaakov says to her? What, my God? And when Rivka said to Yitzchak, give me children, and Sarah said to Aaron, give me children, did they answer her that way? No. But you know what Yaakov said to her? What are you coming to me for? Now you come to me. When they substituted, you should have come to me. That means you joined forces with my father-in-law to force me to marry a girl I never intended to marry. That's betrayal. Now there are cheshbonos. The Chazal and the Meforshim all go through a tremendous thing. But you know what? I mentioned to you this before. Yaakov was very angry at his parents. People don't understand that. Figure it out this way. When Avram and Sarah had to raise the children, and Ishmael was a troublemaker, what did they do? They got rid of Ishmael. When Yitzchak and Rivka had the same problem, what did they do? They got rid of Yaakov. Yaakov said, what's going on over here? We keep the good kid home. We don't throw the good kid out. They felt, no. Keep your friends close, keep your enemies even closer. Yaakov resented that. When Yaakov had his dream, Hashem said to him, Ani Hashem Elokei Avraham Avicha, Avraham your father, Elokei Yitzchak, doesn't call him his father. Yaakov says, who's my father? Avraham is my father. He treated me like a father. Doesn't refer to Yitzchak as a father. He resents it. Okay? And he's not going to make the same mistake, you're going to see. But look at the irony. Yaakov is away for 20 years. 7 years to work for Rachel, which he got Leah, another 7 years, plus 6 years for the sheep, 20 years. He comes back after 20 years of being away. He's living in Rego Park. His parents live in Kew Garden Hills. Did he go see his parents? No. 2 years he stayed there. Didn't go see his father or mother. Finally, his mother sent the Vorah to come get him, and she died, and the mother died. So the mother who loved Yaakov, he never went back to see. Now, just think, you go away for 20 years, you come back, you're living 10 minutes from your parents. You don't go see your own parents? Yaakov lived in Sukkot by Shechem. It could have been a 3-day journey. He was married now. He had 12 children. You don't think his parents wanted to meet their grandchildren? 2 years he was back. People don't realize that in the Psukim until they see Rashi. He did not go back. Was he right or was he wrong? You know what? There's only one way to find out. Was he punished for 22 years or something? Yeah. What was the punishment? Yosef. Karma. Back and forth. Yaakov's whole life was this. And Yaakov was going to be smart. Yaakov said, the brothers hate Yosef. I'm going to keep Yosef home. And I sent the brothers with the sheep. So he said to the brother, I'm not going to make the same mistake. I'm keeping Yosef home. But then he wanted to know. He didn't hear from the brothers. He sent Yosef to find out about the brothers. And Yosef disappeared. 22 years Yosef was out of the house. 22 years Yaakov did not go see his parents. So it's an amazing thing. Now, Rachel and Leah, they were part of Lavan's deceit. What price did they pay? Rachel wasn't buried in the Marat HaMachpelah. She was the one who betrayed him the most. Yes, there was a reason why she was buried on the side of the road in Beit Lechem, but that was a different reason. But Rachel and Leah were part of the plot. You know what the price they paid was? How old was Rachel when she died?
40-something.
36.
36.
How old was Leah? 44.
42.
Young.
They died young. Rachel and Leah, right? They lied to Yaakov. They created all this. Again, we're being simplistic. There is this reason and that reason, all the different svaras, all the Meforshim weigh in explaining what it is. But a mikra yotem de pshuta, the pasuks, the psukim have their own, truth to it. And there was a price to pay. Everybody paid a price. Everybody that was involved, every single thing that happened that would bother you and me, that was not really the way it should be, all you got to do is wait and see was there a consequence. And there were consequences. By the time Yaakov Avinu appeared before Paro, he looked hundreds of years old. As a matter of fact, Paro asked him, how old are you? He looks so old. In the end, Yaakov Avinu learns the truth. In the end, he kept his emunah, he kept his bitachon, he kept his faith. And because of all the things that happened, he stayed the course. He became known as the choice of all the avos, the Bechir HaAvos. And his image is carved in the Kisei HaKavod, in Hashem's throne. He realized he enjoyed his children, his grandchildren, his great-grandchildren. He was successful in establishing the 12 tribes. With all his personal difficulties and failures, he accomplished his mission. But you know what makes Yaakov fascinating? He was no different than you and me. We all have successes, we all have failures. And yet, in the end, he never gave up. And that's why he was one of the Avos. And in the end, he was buried in Hebron, and he was united with his father and his grandfather, and his mission was completed, and the job was done. But it wasn't final. The Jewish people still would be going through evolution in Mitzrayim. And by the time they were through, 4/5 would never make it out. And who picked up the pieces and finished the job that Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov started? Moshe Rabbeinu. And it would take him a lifetime Moshe, it took him a lifetime and countless setbacks to complete the mission of the Avos. But in the end, the Avraham who came down to Egypt the first time and then left, brought Moshe, who came down to Egypt and then left and took the Jewish people. And when he took the Jewish people, who did he have as his ally next to him? The coffin of Yosef. And Yosef was a reflection of Yaakov. And Yaakov was a reflection of Yitzchak and Avraham. So all the trials, all the tribulations, all the pain, all the suffering, everything that went into the life of the Avos on a human nature, with all the difficulties, all the setbacks, in spite of all the midrashim, in the end, the Avos were who they were because they stayed true to their mission. But there were things that could have been done differently. And the Torah doesn't sugarcoat it. The Torah lays it bare, lays it all out there for us to see. Have a good night, everybody.
Good night, thank you.
You're welcome.